Pasadena always smelled like jasmine in the mornings. Lena Carter noticed it every day when she stepped out of her Spanish-style bungalow, sweet, clean, almost unreal for a city stitched so tightly to Los Angeles chaos. She liked that illusion. After 20 years of teaching AP English at a public high school, illusions were sometimes the only things that kept her sane. Her students thought she was calm, controlled, maybe a little strict. They didn't know how carefully she balanced everything: her marriage, her career, the mortgage, the dream that her life still meant something after 42. That Tuesday morning started like any other. She kissed her husband Daniel's cheek as he pretended to sleep, his face half buried in silk sheets they couldn't really afford. His phone buzzed once on the nightstand. He flipped it face down before she could see the screen. "Early shoot today," he murmured. She didn't ask where. Lena grabbed her keys and stepped into the driveway where her new electric SUV waited, midnight blue, glossy, pristine. A gift from Daniel 2 months ago. "You deserve something nice," he'd said. She hadn't questioned how he could suddenly afford it when his indie film projects had been almost funded for years. She opened the driver's door and froze. Something blinked red beneath the seat. At first she thought it was a reflection. A loose charging cable. Some tech thing she didn't understand. Then it blinked again. Steady. Mechanical. Her heartbeat thudded into her throat. She crouched, breath shallow, peering under the seat. A small black box was zip-tied to the frame. Thin wires ran from it toward the battery compartment. Her first thought wasn't bomb. It was, what did Daniel buy now? But then she saw the secondary wiring, too precise, too deliberate. Her hands started shaking. She backed out slowly, shut the door, and leaned against the car as the morning birds chirped like nothing was wrong. Her phone buzzed. "Daniel, morning, babe. Running late. Drive safe." Her stomach dropped. Lena didn't scream. She didn't run. She walked back into the house, locked the door, and sat on the kitchen floor until the tremor in her hands calmed. 20 years of managing teenagers had trained her well. Panic never helped. Patterns did. She Googled discreetly. Device under car seat, blinking light. Results flooded in: GPS trackers, security systems, and then something colder. Improvised detonator systems. Her vision blurred. She opened the window and called 911 with shaking fingers. I think there's something under my car. A device. I'm not touching it." The operator's voice sharpened immediately. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the vehicle. Are you in a safe location?" Within 12 minutes, her quiet street filled with flashing lights. Neighbors peeked through blinds. A bomb squad truck rolled in. And Lena Carter's life split into a before and after. A man in a heavy protective suit crouched under her SUV while others cleared the block. Time stretched. Finally, a tall officer with kind eyes approached her. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "you did the right thing calling us." Her throat tightened. "Is it what I think it is?" He nodded once. "A remote detonator. Hardwired to the battery." Her knees buckled. What would have happened? It would have looked like an electrical fire. High-speed ignition. No survivors. The words echoed. No survivors. Her phone buzzed again. "Daniel, hey, love, you okay?" "You're not answering." She stared at the screen. Her husband of 8 years. The man who made her laugh. Who cooked terrible pasta. Who cried when their IVF failed. And the man who had just tried to kill her. The detective, a woman named Rosa Martinez, gently took her phone. "We're going to let him think everything's normal," she said. "If you're willing." Lena nodded numbly. They sent a text from her phone. "Lena, all good. Car wouldn't start. Calling." 3 dots appeared almost instantly. "Daniel, damn. I was about to say, your sister called. Car accident in San Diego." She's hurt. You should go. Lena's blood ran cold. My sister lives in Oregon, she whispered. Detective Martinez met her eyes. That's the push, she said quietly. He wanted you on the freeway. They moved fast. The bomb squad towed the SUV to a quarry outside Lancaster where controlled detonations were conducted. A decoy operation began. Meanwhile, Lena sat in an unmarked police car, wrapped in a blanket, replaying every moment of her marriage. The late nights. The secret calls. The sudden money. The new assistant he'd hired, Kayla, 24, Instagram perfect. The detective slid a photo across the seat. Recognize her? Lena swallowed. That's his assistant. She's also his girlfriend. And she's been shopping for life insurance policies in your name. The world tilted. How much? Lena whispered. 2.5 million. Silence swallowed the car. They decided to let the plan play out. The car would explode that night on a deserted stretch near the quarry. News would break. Daniel and Kayla would take the bait. By noon the next day, they walked hand in hand into an insurance office in West Hollywood. Smiling. Confident. Already planning their next life. That's when the doors locked. And the FBI walked in. The desert was silent except for the wind. Miles from the nearest highway, the quarry looked like a wound carved into the earth, jagged stone, dry dust, and the echo of emptiness. At exactly 11:47 p.m., the SUV sat alone at the bottom of the pit, headlights off, doors locked. A controlled charge had been planted carefully beneath it. Lena watched from inside a mobile command van, wrapped in a blanket, her hands gripping a paper cup of untouched coffee. Her chest felt hollow, like something essential had already burned away. Countdown in 10, a technician said calmly. Her eyes never left the screen. She remembered Daniel teaching her how to drive stick shift years ago, laughing when she stalled. She remembered believing that love meant safety. 3, 2, 1. The explosion ripped through the night, violent, bright, final. Flames swallowed the SUV. Metal twisted. Glass shattered. A fireball bloomed against the desert sky. Lena flinched. Tears spilled before she realized she was crying, not from fear, but grief for the woman she had been an hour ago. Explosion confirmed, the technician said. News chopper inbound in 5. Across town, Daniel Cross stood in a downtown hotel suite, watching the news crawl at the bottom of the television screen. Breaking, Pasadena woman killed in electric vehicle fire. His breath hitched. Oh my God, he whispered, hand flying to his mouth. Beside him, Kayla gasped theatrically. Daniel. I'm so sorry. He sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands, but the camera in the corner of the room caught the truth. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Relief. Freedom. Within hours, they were rehearsing grief. Who would cry? Who would talk to reporters? How long before filing the claim? By morning, they walked into the insurance office hand in hand. Daniel wore black. Kayla wore white. The irony was thick enough to choke on. I'm here about my wife, he said softly. Lena Carter. She passed last night. The clerk offered condolences and asked them to wait. 10 minutes later, the room filled with men and women in dark suits. FBI. LAPD. IRS. The doors locked. Daniel stood up, confused. What's going on? That's when Lena walked in. Alive. Unharmed. Eyes sharp as broken glass. Surprise, she said quietly. Daniel's face drained of color. No, this isn't funny, he stammered. You're dead. I was supposed to be, she replied. Kayla took a step back. This is fake. She's lying. Agent Martinez stepped forward. Actually, Miss Reynolds, we have quite a bit of evidence. Wire transfers. Insurance documents. Recorded calls. Including the one where you discussed waiting for the explosion. Kayla's knees buckled. Daniel lunged forward. Lena, please listen. She raised a hand. I listened for years. A screen flickered on behind them. Security footage played, Daniel wiring the device under the car in the garage. Another clip showed him practicing his crying face in the mirror. Gasps filled the room. You were supposed to love me, Lena said softly. Instead, you tried to erase me. Daniel collapsed into a chair. I was desperate, he whispered. I needed the money. The movie, it was everything. You didn't need money, she said. You needed a conscience. Agents moved in, snapping cuffs around both of them. As they were led away, Kayla screamed, You said she'd be dead. You promised. Lena didn't flinch. The case exploded nationwide. Headlines called it the Hollywood insurance plot. Text messages. Bank records. The fake affair cover. The staged call about her sister's accident. Every lie unraveled. Daniel took a plea deal. Kayla didn't. She went to trial and lost. The judge sentenced her to 25 years. Daniel got 30. When the gavel came down, Lena felt something finally loosen in her chest. Justice didn't heal everything. But it helped. Months later, Lena stood in front of a classroom again, this time teaching creative writing to survivors of trauma at a community center. Her old house was sold. She kept the money. Used part of it to fund a scholarship for women escaping domestic violence. The rest? She traveled. Paris. Lisbon. Kyoto. And sometimes, when she drove now, still cautiously, she smiled at the open road. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was alive. And she was free. The courtroom emptied slowly, like a storm finally losing its strength. Lena remained seated long after the jury had filed out and the murmurs faded into echoes. Her hands rested in her lap, steady now, no longer trembling. The verdict had landed with the quiet finality of a door closing forever. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit murder. Insurance fraud. Wire fraud. Daniel never looked back at her as the bailiff led him away. Not once. His shoulders slumped, not in shame, but in defeat, like a man who had gambled everything on a lie and lost. Kayla screamed as they took her, her mascara streaking like oil down her face. She tricked us, she cried. She planned this. Lena didn't respond. She didn't need to. Truth didn't need defense anymore. Weeks passed. The media storm faded, replaced by new scandals, new tragedies. But for Lena, the silence that followed was unfamiliar and almost frightening. No cameras. No lawyers. No police escorts. Just mornings again. She returned to her small bungalow in Pasadena, the one she'd nearly lost. The house felt different now, lighter, like it could breathe again. She opened the windows every morning and let the California sun spill across the floors. Sometimes she caught herself listening for footsteps that weren't there. Sometimes she cried without knowing why. Healing, she learned, wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Ordinary. Slow. She went back to teaching, not high school this time, but adult night classes at a community center. Writing, storytelling, journaling for recovery. People came with their own scars, veterans, abuse survivors, former addicts. She didn't tell them her story unless they asked. But when she did, it gave them courage. One afternoon, months later, she received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single line written in shaky handwriting. I'm sorry I couldn't love you the right way. She folded the paper once. Then again. And placed it in a box she kept in the closet, the one labeled Finished Chapters. A year later, she stood on a bluff overlooking the Pacific, the wind tugging at her hair. The ocean stretched endlessly, indifferent and beautiful. Her phone buzzed. A text from the DA's office. Final appeal denied. Sentences upheld. She exhaled. That chapter was truly closed now. She pulled a small notebook from her bag and wrote the first line of a new story. Not about betrayal. Not about revenge. About survival. About choosing yourself when the world tries to erase you. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in gold and fire, Lena smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because she had made it through. Alive. Whole. Free.